Great. Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. We start every meeting with a pledge to allegiance. However, today I'm going to be a little bit selfish. We have some guests here tonight that are going to take me back to nostalgia. And as an elementary student, every morning, Tom Breesy, Mr. Breesy, would always do his xylophone, and then he would say a pledge of allegiance to the flag. So rather than getting up and leading the board and the whole meeting, I've asked Mr. Breesy's 3 children, young children, to come up and lead us in a pledge to the flag. So it's Tom, Amy, and Beth. If they would please come up and take me back to nostalgia elementary school.
Ding, ding, ding. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sticking around. They were here as their father was inducted into the Fredonia District Wall of Fame, along with Mr. Lenny Vento. But anyway, so now that it's not about me anymore, it's about this board meeting. We have an agenda, and the adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and a second, and then an affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. However, prior to the adoption of the consent agenda, any board member may remove any item from the consent agenda. This item will then come up for discussion as part of the regular agenda. So if I could get a motion to bring the agenda to the floor, but before we do that, I'm just going to ask that we move the tenure item, which is item 8A, number 1 through 13. I want to move that forward right after item number 4, which is our administrative reports. So we're going to do the administrative reports and then go right into tenure and then celebrate our tenure recipients and then go on with the rest of the meeting. So if I could get a motion for that.
So moved.
Ms. Powell Ford, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gallo. Are there any concerns, or is there anything anyone would like to pull out of the consent agenda? Oh, okay. All right. So if that's the case, everyone who is in agreement with the consent agenda and agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Wonderful. So the board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle, up front. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight? Just a lot of people who are interested in what we're doing, huh? Okay. So if that is the case, we're going to go right into administrators' reports, and we have a retiree recognition for several teachers. We have Michelle Greeno, our FTA president, Cindy Gloff, CSEA vice president, Sandy Forbes, and Pat Ambrose, SSSA co-presidents.
Yep. So we do have our association presidents here tonight, and I think we'll wait till the end. You guys guys can kind of wrap it up and bring some closure to everything. Please know on behalf of our entire district, district office, as well as the Board of Education, we certainly recognize, honor, and appreciate all the hard work of our retirees and those leaving the district. Ms. Slagle was nice enough to total up the number of years experience, which I think is at 268 for our retirees, so well done. And, you know, I have been here for the past year and a half, and I don't mean to, you know, overstep, because I know people who have worked here 26 years, 30 years, 28 years, have connections with a variety of people and far more close connection than with myself for the most part. So please know, we absolutely honor our retirees, but we wanted to involve our directors and also our principals in sharing a few comments about each retiree. And we'll just kind of work our way through the list, and then we'll give our association presidents a chance to share. So first up, we wanted to start with Carol Kinney, teacher's aide from the Wheelock School.
Carol is probably one of the sweetest, kindest souls. Just got to the heart of special ed students, knew them, knew their families, just really brought a lot to life for the kids and really made them their best selves. So we miss Carol. We already did.
Absolutely. And I know Mrs. Piper, last year we did have a chance to honor Lisa Helwig, but technically she's on the agenda tonight for this school year. And again, being in the midst of all that was COVID and is COVID, I got to work very closely with Lisa, and I think I said last year, you know, she really embodied that positive, nurturing, friendly family culture at Wheelock, which we all know and love, but I think she was a great example of that. Amy, anything else?
100%. Lisa was, especially working for COVID with Lisa, she might call me on Saturday night at 10 p.m. or Sunday at 3 p.m. and always had the same kind, sweet demeanor, cared about the kids, cared about their families, and she is missed. And just a great addition to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Additionally, again, staying with the Wheelock theme, we have Tina DiCarlo-Antonio, kindergarten teacher. And I meant to mention Carol with 26 years of experience, Lisa with 9, and Tina with 32 years experience in the district. So I thought you could share some
All I can say about Tina is just the true reflection of Wheelock. She is kind, she is generous, she is student-centered. She is going to be missed, I think, more than any of us realize until she's actually gone. But she is just the heart and soul of Wheelock, and she's been a gift to the district.
Very good, agreed. Moving to the middle school, Mike Mallory, 30 years of experience in the district as our music teacher. Paula, you could share a few thoughts about Mike.
Sure. Mike has really helped to build our music program. We all know how great it is, and he has worked over the years with our middle school students and has really done an amazing job. It will be hard to replace him. We have found someone, but you know, having those years and those relationships are really hard to replace, and we just wish him well in his next adventure.
Very nice. Very nice. Mr. Paschke at the high school, again, 30 years of experience. Audrey Lancaster.
I don't know how it could be 30 years. Audrey and I started teaching the same year, and I think it was about 6 years ago.
Agreed.
But Audrey has brought so much to our business department and to our school through extracurriculars. She brought in JCC courses, which are abundant in the business courses. Just has the heart of our students and the pulse of our students. Students always feel very welcome in her classroom. It's a place to go after school for our students who sometimes don't like to go home. You can find them hanging out in Audrey's room, and she's just, it's going to be a hard loss. I've known Audrey for so long. Just wish you the best, Audrey. Thank you for everything that you've given to our staff and to our kids and to the families. Appreciate you.
I think we'll stay with the row. And Ken Powell, 28 years at the middle school. And Paula?
We are going to miss Kim. She has been an instructional leader for us that I have personally looked to for guidance and support. She's been a business teacher in the middle school. She's taught computers. She's kind of taken on different roles and has been flexible enough to do that. She's been our yearbook advisor. She's worked with our kids and done a tremendous job. We're going to miss her so very much. She's someone our students, our teachers, Jamie and I will truly, truly miss. She's one of those irreplaceable people.
Very good. Paula, also Mike Pauley, 28 years.
Yeah, Mike has taught technology for us. It's a class that our kids truly loved. It was a struggle this year because he wasn't able to be here. And our kids really missed him. You know, the activities and the things that he did with them, we weren't able to do this year. And so we will really miss having him in the building.
Back to Wheelock School, teacher aide, Sharon Kazal, 28 years.
Another great loss to our district. Sharon is another one of our aides that just got to know the students. She worked with a lot of students with autism and had parents who have adult children now that have come and said that Sharon changed their lives. So she really touched a lot of souls and she will truly be missed.
Absolutely. Mr. Forbes wanted to be here tonight. He was unable to attend to speak regarding John Elliott. Been here 13 years. For all of you who know John, you know he's a good example of slow and steady wins the race. Never too high, never too low, just always operates in that steady plane. And again, got to know John a little bit more as a result of COVID and all the things that we were doing as custodians and cleaners to make sure we were doing everything we could to limit the spread of the virus. And John was, extremely helpful all the way around and just a pleasant gentleman to have in the district. Finishing up with some teacher aides, Joanne Ryan, teacher aide, 15 years. Paula?
Joanne has just been a godsend for us. She works with our most needy kids. She's like the grandma to them. You know, she's loving and caring, and they so appreciate that with her. She's had a really rough year this year, and through it all, you know, she's loving and caring and smiling and is truly there for the kids. So we are very much going to miss her.
Also at the middle school, Virginia Harper, 6 years, as another teacher's aide.
Virginia as well works in some of our most neediest classrooms where our kids really depend on their aides, and she comes in every day with a smile. She works with the kids. She is dependable and really cares about the kids. She always puts the kids first, and we're really going to miss her.
And back to the high school for Stacy Conti, 22 years.
Stacy's been amazing. She's an aide that you could rely on for everything. If a student needs a test read, if you need a one-on-one aide for a special ed student, if you need someone to watch the lunchroom, if you need to know exactly which kids are out of the classroom at 10:41, so they're like, oh, I know exactly who that is. And she has the beat of the school. She's going to be sorely missed. She struggled with her ankle for the past few years. It's been a lot of pain, and just to give her the honor that's due, when she gets up a couple of hours early just to massage her ankle so that she can come to work. Just the pain that she's been in, several surgeries on her ankle, and I just give her all the credit for continuing to want to be here and want to affect kids' lives, and she will be sadly missed in our school.
Thank you, sir. Association presidents, anything that you wanted to share at this point? Michelle?
149 years. That's the combined total years of service to Fredonia Central School District of our 5 teacher retirees. These folks have literally shaped our community. It's very likely they taught some of you in this room Their contributions to the young people of Fredonia are far too many to name, but please know that these particular people are representative of the finest caliber of human. They care about kids and content and their colleagues, sure, but they've always worked with care for the future of our community as well. Their passion and knowledge will be missed. Audrey, Mike, Tina, Kim, and Mike, enjoy your journeys ahead. You've earned this retirement many times over. I would also like to wish all of our brothers and sisters in education from the CSEA and the SSSA the best years in retirement, and we extend sincere gratitude from the FTA for your service to our students and your kindness and professionalism throughout your years here. Thanks.
You know, I think, I mentioned it in our ceremony earlier tonight, I'm a former social studies teacher, so I'm definitely in tune with history, and I'm very proud to know everyone on this list. And the other thing that I'm well aware of is that in Fredonia we like to tell some stories and bring up names from the past. So when a name like Lancaster or Mallory or Powell or Pauly or fill in the blank comes up, I will know who we are talking about, and that's a good feeling to have as a relatively new person to the district. But please know that the history and the contributions is not lost on me or the district in any way. Board members, anything you wanted to share real quick?
I would just say it's really nice to hear the personal connections and stories, especially for those that we don't know, and so I really enjoyed that. Glad to hear it. Congratulations to everyone, and thank you for your years.
Anything else? Okay. I would just like to say the price of gas is going to be $10 a gallon pretty soon. So all the retirees who think that they're going to go travel, don't do it. Golfing, weather is going to be terrible. So if you need something to do, I know our district needs substitutes, and we can use volunteers. So just come on back. We'll take you. We'd love to have you. Anyway, okay. Right? Okay.
I'm on board.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on. We have the approval of recommendation for tenure, and if I could have a motion to bring items A1 through 13 to the floor. So, Mr. Hawk and Mr. Johnston? Okay. So, before we get really into the individuals here, I wanted to just make a few comments on tenure, because tenure can be controversial for somebody who's not in the academics. We're essentially guaranteeing employees, guaranteeing employment within certain bounds. And we always hear of worst-case scenarios. The extremely rare, extremely rare. So the board understands that this is something that we're not going to take very lightly. And we have spent a lot of time going over our tenure candidates to make sure that they are qualified to receive the honors of tenure. We have spent executive sessions, which is a personnel issue that is not open to the public. So you're going to see just a small fraction of the discussion or what we're looking at here. And I will say, I think that the board has spent a lot of time going over this. Again, we take this very seriously, and we're excited about offering tenure tonight to these 13 individuals.
Yeah, absolutely, and I just want to echo what Mr. Aldrich was just saying, and that as far back as my interview here in the district, it was very clear to me that in regards to tenure, it was something that was earned and not awarded or given or assumed. And we're very proud, as Mr. Aldrich was saying, because absolutely everybody has earned tenure that's here tonight. And, you know, I think there's a combination of, you know, those technical teaching skills and really being aware of all instructional best practices and all of those components of the job, but there's also that relationship and connection and developing relationships with students and really developing a friendly, collaborative dynamic in the classroom. And I think everybody here, whether it's in the classroom or some other position in the district, everybody has that balance and really is a well-rounded professional that walks that line between having those technical skills, but also really creating a dynamic where students feel like they can reach out, they can count on you, and you're a trusted adult in their life. So we appreciate all of that. Again, I wanted to turn it over to either our directors or our principals to share a few thoughts. The first person on the agenda tonight is Michelle Curis, and Ms. Farrell, I was hoping you could share a few thoughts.
So Michelle is here with us, and she joined our faculty 4 years ago. She brought many years of preschool speech therapy experience with her, and I had known Michelle through her previous work. So I had 100% confidence in her then, as well as when I brought her forward for a final round interview, as much as I have 100% confidence in the recommendation for tenure for her. Michelle's a therapist who always looks at the big picture, not just how to support students in therapy sessions, but how their speech and language development impacts all of their success in the classroom in regards to academics, literacy, social interactions, communication, and management. She displays her membership on a child's team for every child, every time. Michelle is kind and compassionate. She steps up to address every task with importance. She takes on challenges with drive and determination. She's a person with integrity, confidence, and a strong work ethic, and it is truly an honor to speak on her behalf tonight.
Thank you, Michelle, and congrats. Next, Ms. Troutman, I was hoping you could comment on Mackenzie Shelton.
Yes. Mackenzie integrates, she's here tonight, sorry, integrates other subjects into her art lessons. She works with other staff members to connect the work that they are doing within the classroom to the work that she is doing in hers. She was always looking for ways to connect her students to the outside world and helps them make a positive impact on other people. Mackenzie has a very active middle school art club who has just recently partnered, as you know, with SUNY Fredonia students to create an art piece that will soon be displayed in the middle school. So I am very excited that Mackenzie is here tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Mackenzie, and congrats. Next up on our list is Paula Chapman, and I'm gonna handle this. It's been a pleasure to work with Paula over the last year and a half. And I'm going to kind of limit my comments tonight to things that have happened since I've been on board. And I think we all know Paula came into the middle school and was able to kind of reconfigure and settle the building in a number of different ways. And although I wasn't working here at the time, we certainly are aware of the transition and the time and effort it took to make sure that things were moving in the right direction as you came on board. You know, in my time here, our first order of business was to return all students who wanted to full-time instruction in the spring of 2021. You know, a little over a year ago, and Paula was able to successfully do that at the middle school along with our other members of our admin team. But in the moment, that was an accomplishment, and having people be able to attend in person was the goal, and that happened at the middle school. Having students return to the building, Paula recognized a need to sort of reestablish clear, fair, and balanced investigative processes and disciplinary process in the middle school, and that was a strength of what happened at the later part of last year as well. She's incredibly visible at all kinds of events, both during the school day, shortly after the school day and evening, and Paula and I spent quite a bit of time you know, at different middle school events. She has also brought a focus and created some energy around really targeted instruction in the middle school, and has been an instructional leader. and has really guided the middle school through the shift to really thinking about how we can support individual students and their individual needs. She's also just been helpful with the larger instructional program. Lately, she's been helpful in us starting to sort out our technology and business offerings and what that will look like moving forward, as well as courses of innovations and study skills that are really helpful to all middle school students. She has also brought a focus on social emotional health and really thinking about how do we support our students, and advocated for an additional middle school counselor last year, which is in place currently, and that's a credit to Paula and her seeking additional supports and seeking additional staffing for her building. She also has done a great job communicating internally among the faculty and staff. She sends out a weekly communication that really summarizes everything that is happening in the middle school, and I actually get a number of compliments on that. When people mention our communication that goes out from the district office, and they appreciate that our administrative team does the same within their own schools. She has also increased student voice in the middle school through a principal's council, and again brings students together to have conversations about what's happening, how we can improve, what are the perceptions of the students in our building, and how we can use that as part of our educational process. And I think another good example of that, and I'll end with this, is her, well, I got two more, but one is that she is in the process of developing an ambassador program at the middle school, and again, this connects back to that social emotional prevention and support, and that's a great initiative that's going on right now. And also, we have across the district stepped up our game in terms of summer school, and Paula was very essential in getting that up and running last year, and that will continue this year. So, for all those reasons, we are proud to have Paula as part of our admin team, and also proud that she is on the list of tenured employees tonight. So, well done, Paula. Switching over to the high school, David Denz. Mr. Paschke, I was hoping you could share a little bit of information about Dave.
Hi, Dave. Dave's way in the back. Good to see you, Dave. Dave, I remember Dave's interview. Dave brought in a shower curtain to his interview, and on the shower curtain were all of these drawings throughout history. And he, in his prior school, he had worked with a U.S. World class, an AP World History class, and it was one of the projects that they did. And it was so exciting to see the excitement that he had for his kids and what they were able to produce. And the fact that he brought the shower curtain in was pretty cool. And you know, Dave hit the ground running, and you know, I think sometimes when we grant tenure, we always talk about how great people are, but you know, and I'm not saying Dave's not great. You're great, Dave. But I think we also need to talk about growth, and Dave's all about growth. The areas that you know, he felt that when we talked needed to be improved on, he hit those right away and has been steadily improving. I think that's very important to him. He's very reflective and compassionate, and just a fantastic addition to our social studies staff. So congratulations, Dave. We're glad to have you here.
Thanks, Dave. Congrats. Back to Mrs. Farrow. I was hoping you could share some thoughts on Kat Beyer, our school social worker.
Sure. Kat is with us tonight. So Kat began her work here with what I would say is a relatively blank slate. As a social worker, it was a new position. So she was tasked with bringing on traditional school social work, as well as to carve out a niche for herself and her profession here at Fredonia. So over the years, Kat has brought structure to addressing social, emotional, and behavioral needs. She's worked effectively with teams at every level, particularly with our school counselors, school psychologists, and with the administrative team. She's streamlined referrals and created visibility for school helpers, diversity and mental wellness, among other things. She's focused on school and community collaboration, and she's founded some new after-school activities that are centered on wellness, diversity, and inclusion. She does her work with professional skill and with the personal skills of approachability, intelligence, connectedness, and a non-judgmental attitude and a sense of responsibility, honesty, and clarity. She prioritizes students and families, and she's demonstrated the ability to be both flexible and direct, and she has above and beyond work ethic, and I'm proud to work with Kat.
Very good. Thank you, Kat, and congrats. And next up, back to Mr. Paschke, Gina Davis, school counselor.
Hi, Gina. Gina's fantastic. She was a great addition to our counseling team. She is a go-to whenever you talk about someone who's there for kids, who's going to stick up for kids, and is going to support our kids. That's the place that you're going to find them is in Gina's office. And if Gina needs to take a walk to make sure that a kid is getting what they need, she takes the walk and she talks the talk along with it. She's amazing. She really puts forth maximum effort for doing what's good for kids. And it's been so challenging in the high school with, through the COVID issues with just mental health that, Gina is there for the kids 24/7. And then on top of that, she's on top of every little detail that she needs to be doing with, we've got scheduling, we've got all the crazy things that the school counseling office does. Don't hurt me when I say, I'm so old-fashioned, I say guidance office, but the school counseling office. And there are student support services. But Gina's just amazing. I tell her all the time that I'm glad that she's here. I want to keep her here as long as possible, so I'm glad that she's receiving tenure. And Gina, thank you so much for all that you do for the kids. And thank you so much for having a great heart for the kids. It really means a lot, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Congrats. Mr. Challenger, I think this is your big moment tonight here.
Yeah, just one tonight. So Jamie was unable to attend tonight. She sends her thanks to the board. But she's one of our fabulous second grade teachers who has that ability to connect with her students. I mean, right off the bat, she knows the importance of building relationships, and she makes that her priority at the beginning of the year, and then she maintains those relationships, and it pays off. Because just like all of us, there are kiddos who are more challenging than others, and she has the ability to connect with those kiddos and help them to learn from their mistakes, and they really grow in her class behaviorally. And then academically, she's one of our fabulous teachers. She's incredibly strong at meeting kids where they're at and then getting them to grow as readers. And on the personal end, her daughter attends school here. She's very active in the PTO in the community. She's the one teacher who volunteers at every single PTO event, so I can always count on her. And you'll see her every morning watering the flowers in front of the elementary school. So thanks to her.
Thanks, Jamie, and congrats to her. Mr. Paschke, how about Zach Forey's mathematics, 712?
Zach. How you doing, Zach?
I'm good.
Good. We're glad to have you here. Zach joined us as a long-term sub in mathematics originally, and he had opportunities to go elsewhere, even for more money. And Zach was so enamored with our school district and our kids, he turned down positions to stay here in a position that maybe wasn't certain and maybe wasn't the best pay. But he believes in our district and he believes in our kids. You can see it in all of the work that he does. His preparation is incredible. His first years here, he sat in during his planning periods watching other teachers teach just to improve his craft on a regular basis. He offers extra practice time after school for kids. He'll stay till 4 or 5 o'clock on a regular basis. He offers nighttime reviews when we get to finals and midterms. And he's never someone who's saying, hey, I've got my hand out, can you pay me a little extra because I stayed late, or I offered this at night. He does it because he cares about kids, and he just wants to be involved with our school district. So Zach, I'm very proud of the teacher that you've become. I'm very proud of all the work that you put in, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. So welcome as a tenured faculty to our school.
Thank you, Zach. Congrats. Mrs. Troutman, how about Chandler Henning?
I don't think Chandler was able to be here tonight. He's got a little one at home, so Chandler has done a great job for us. He creates lessons that are hands-on and allows creativity and student engagement. You'll see that every time you walk into his classroom. He utilizes technology daily to engage his students. He's very reflective, one of the most reflective people that I've worked with, and he looks for feedback. He wants to improve and grow his teaching practices. He developed great relationships with his kids. They love him, and they love being in the classroom with him. Our 6th grade team works very closely together, and he has fit right in with that team and really brought, a new little revitalization, to the team, and so we're really lucky to have Gina with us.
Nice. Let's stick with the middle school here. Mary Ivory.
Mary is here tonight. We're glad to have her. Mary, I would say Mary's greatest strength instructionally is her ability to differentiate instruction for her students. When we hired Mary, the whole committee was so excited, and we were watching her do her teaching lesson, and we're like, we have to have Mary. And we wanted to steal the things that she was doing and do that in other classrooms. But she uses data to create groups, and you will see pairs and groups and whole group instruction within her class. Students do the heavy lifting in her class. They're the ones doing the work. And she allows them, she kind of guides them. And that's what we want to see. That's where kids really learn. Mary incorporates technology every day, which helps to engage the students and allows them to work at their own pace. And she has brought strong experience, strong knowledge to the 5th grade team. So we're very excited that she's here for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mary. Congrats. Paula, how about Ivy Krenzer, who will appear on the agenda a couple times tonight? We can explain that when we get there.
Okay. I don't believe Ivy is here, but in the science classroom, Ivy brings in real-world problems into her lessons so that the science concepts that she is teaching are relevant for our kids, because that's important. This engages our kids at a deeper level, that they feel like they're solving problems that are kind of going on right now, and it brings some excitement to the classroom. Ivy is an instructional leader for science, and she meets with our science department. They've done a lot of work as a department on the next gen standards, getting ready for that, and Ivy has been a real great addition to our science department.
Very good. Congrats to Ivy, and thank you. Last one here, Mrs. Chapman, for you, Kayla Wiska.
So I don't think Kayla's here tonight. She has a brand new little one at home. So we have been missing her, but we're excited to see her new addition. Kayla has brought new ideas to Fredonia Middle School. She is in our physical education department, and she's creative. She's implemented rollerblading since she's got here. The kids absolutely love it. Badminton, she hopes to implement table tennis. That's one of the things, we're trying to get some table tennis tables. She incorporates critical thinking. If you see her in the gym, they will do a lot of teamwork, and they'll have to figure out maybe how to get from one side of the gym to the other side of the gym using different equipment. And so there's a ton of critical thinking going on in gym class with her. She has been a great addition. She gets along with her other PE teachers very well. She kind of holds them all together, and they all have strengths, and she's been a great addition. So we're very glad to have Kayla.
Yeah, thanks to her, and congrats. And Mrs. Piper, how about Erin Jafrida?
So I have something to read, but I think this is much more valuable. Erin, can you stand up? Can you tell us what you have on, Erin?
So this was created for me by my UPK class this year. I have one from my kindergarten class last year as well. I like to be able to show off their work. So what better than UPK Couture?
And that is I was thinking of words to say, and I'm like, I can't read this. This is Erin. Erin is one of the most creative, genius minds in early childhood education that I think that I've ever had the privilege to be a part of her classroom. It's like going into a show, when you go into her room, she's engaging, she's using different voices, the kids are just enamored with her. So you can see by all that she creates. The loyalty that she has to our district is bar none. If we have a problem at WELAC, Erin comes out with it. We come together, she'll have ideas, she throws it together, she makes it work. She's amazing. And it's family. It's family. As you can see in the back, is her husband and her dad are both here because this is not just a career, but this is really family for Erin. I think of just today, perfect example, we're out on the football field for a concert for field day, and Erin is there putting kids' hair up, pulling off, making sure that they were safe and happy and having a great time, because she's not there just to teach them important skills that they need to learn and pre-K, but she's there to care for them, so thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Congrats. Ms. Brino, did you have some comments?
As we say goodbye to our fine retirees, we are also beyond proud of our 12 teachers being recommended for tenure today. Tenure is an honor because it represents a moment when the administration and the board and our colleagues recognize that this teacher is one who demonstrates consistent professional behavior and a capability to educate the young people of Fredonia in alignment with the district's mission, vision, and goals. The FTA congratulates each of our very deserving tenure candidates and Mrs. Troutman, our middle school principal.
And I also said this earlier, but just to build off what Michelle said, you know, I think about us updating our mission, vision, core beliefs over the last year, and this idea of becoming our greatest selves. I see that you as individuals are becoming your greatest selves and also helping all of our students do that as well. We also talk about in our vision paving innovative pathways to dynamic and global educational experiences. And when I take my lap around the building each morning or afternoon, I absolutely see those things playing out in your classrooms. So we appreciate the connection to what we believe our purpose to be and what we aspire to be. And we really feel like that's a great connection to make. The board members want to share any thoughts?
I will. One day recently we went around and each of us spoke about who our favorite teacher was or one that impacted us growing up. And it was amazing how no one even had to think about it. I mean, just everyone had someone, multiple people, and it's just exciting because hearing about all of you, I know that you're people who have and will continue to have that impact on students. And personally, Mr. Perez, I'm just honored to be here for you because you had that impact on my son when we moved to this district, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. And I not only agree with what you're saying as far as the board going around saying what impact the teacher had, but we also honored two individuals who really put their careers out for this district, and I'm not telling you that I'm requiring everybody who's got tenure today, but I know that that's kind of the goal that I think that you all have, and that's to be an impact in this district. So thank you. Audrey, thank you.
Please know that you are more than welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but if you're going to hone the lesson plan or create some papers or work on your craft as an educator, we certainly understand and don't feel badly whether you're here for a 10-year celebration or to honor our retirees. If you were to fade into the background this time.
Before you do that, can I get a group picture of the tenure candidates or tenure recipients?
And before we do that, we probably ought to vote on that.
Oh yeah, you should do that. And then maybe some clapping.
What do you think?
Sounds good.
Right.
I just didn't want that to scoot out.
Yeah, the vote's kind of important. So if there's no other comments from the board, all those in favor of accepting these 13 individuals for tenure, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we can clap. Okay, to continue on with the meeting, we have to go back to page. We have a special presentation. Oh.
Principal, Brad.
How about we wait this to in case he can't, because I think that they're trying to get administrators.
Yeah, I think he was
in
beckoned.
there.
Brad, do you want to be in?
Sure. Thank you.
All right, you're going to have to do some calls in the back. Everyone stay tight. Can't see me, I can't see you.
But anyway, it was
All right. Thank you,
That's just been my first.
Yeah.
but I guess the opposite could be true.
Oh, you're fine.
Probably is 25, to be honest.
Okay, so if I could ask for permission from the board to adjust our agenda a little bit here. Because I don't like doing this a lot, but I think that it's important tonight. We have with us, and I'm going to apologize, we have Jessica with us tonight.
That's okay. It's Piatowski.
We have Jessica Piatowski, and Jessica has her husband and two beautiful kids with her. And rather than making you wait for another hour, what we're going to do is we're going to move our agenda around a little bit, if that's okay with you.
That's great.
That would be great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move personnel, item C2, up in front of our special presentation. Ms. Farrow, that's okay with you, isn't it? Ms. Farrow? It's I mean, because if you said it wasn't okay, we'd okay.
I was just apologizing for
Okay. So
It's totally fine. I apologize, we were noisy.
I'm going to ask a motion to adjust the agenda to move item number 8C2 forward to right after our administrator's report, retiree, well, just after tenure, prior to special presentations of our special ed. And if I could have a motion on that, I'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Ms. Powell-Fortner.
Second.
Ms. Gallo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. Okay. So if I could have a motion to move the appointment of Jessica Piatowski?
Yep.
Piatowski, okay. Who holds a professional certification in students with disabilities. If I could have a motion to move that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Marshall and Ms. Hahn. Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, so Jessica did a great job in the interview process at both building level and district office. Part of the reason for the move at this point is she has Fredonia roots at SUNY Fredonia, earning a bachelor's degree in childhood inclusive education with middle school English arts in 2013. She completed her master's degree in literacy at SUNY Buffalo in 2015. She has a variety of certifications, students with disabilities, literacy to early childhood education to birth, elementary education, and English language arts 7 through 9. She has experience including work with students with disabilities in Salamanca and also in East Aurora. She also has experience co-teaching and working with several different teachers, as well as in self-contained setting, working with a team of support staff to do everything they can to meet the needs of their students. And she also implemented a classroom behavior management system, working with nonverbal students, and work with a specialist in feeding disorders, in addition to modifying curriculum to meet the needs of her students. We are very happy to have Jessica on board, and congratulations. We typically put you on the spot a little bit. If you'd like to share a few words.
No, I'm really excited for this opportunity and thrilled to be back in Fredonia, and thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and again, I apologize for the noise in the back. But
You're doing very well.
I'll say hi.
Okay, any questions from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good. Congratulations. That's for your mom. How's that? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I
All right,
appreciate it.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for bringing us back.
Bye.
So, now, Ms. Farrell,
Okay,
now we're ready for your presentation.
ready to go? All right, so I'm happy to present the annual special ed report to you, and Christine's going to forward the slides. So first thing I want to do is really just kind of talk you through who our students are. So next slide, please. Okay, so with regards to students, we can see here that we currently have, and this was as of yesterday, 210 students with disabilities. That means students with IEPs, and those are school-age students in the district. What I've done here, as I do every year, is giving you a breakdown of those students by disability classification.
There are 13 disability categories we can identify a student under, and although the numbers have increased since last year, and the total number of students with disabilities has increased from 184 last year to 210, that's a 14% increase. But the distribution of those students across the disability classifications remains very stable. The highest disability is learning disability, and then other health impairment, and many times those are students with ADHD. So that profile is pretty stable. It has not changed over many years. I also noted at the bottom, although I'm not going to talk a lot about preschool special ed tonight, we currently have 45 preschoolers. Those are children between the ages of 3 and 5 that receive special education services through the Fredonia Central School District. And just as a point of interest, we also have 78 additional students who require accommodations or modifications under a Section 504 plan, and that's K-12. And 504 is different from special ed. Students who have 504 plans have a disability that impacts learning. 504 is the civil rights legislation. It's the Rehab Act of 1973. And that legislation prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, and any entity that receives federal funding has to provide accommodations and modifications. If an individual presents as having a disability that impacts a major life function, then learning is in fact a major life function. So just as a point of interest, so we do have those students that we're responsible for as well. But kind of moving forward, I'm really going to talk about school-age special education. So what I've graphed here, and this is current year by grade, kindergarten through 12, and I have a little plus after 12 because some of our kids in high school are actually 19 or 20 years old, but they're entitled to stay here until 21, so I just call them 12 plus. But what I did was show the higher bar shows the total enrollment in that grade level, and the dark blue bar is the number of students with disabilities in each one of those grade levels, and percentages are listed at the bottom. So typically we trend towards the highest level of students with disabilities at the younger grade levels, and it kind of generally tends to go down as students get older. But there's a couple of bumps there. We've got some large groups at 6th and 7th grade. And those groups have been large since, they were younger, and they just kind of keep moving through. It's not anything I can explain. It's a sort of an anomaly, and it just kind of changes that trend line a little bit. You can go ahead and move to the next slide, Christine. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that previous slide. Just the grade level numbers that I used was calculated to include students with disabilities who are placed outside of our district, outside of the home school by the CSE. So the total enrollment number also does not count in students who are district residents but are parentally placed in private schools or homeschooled by their parents. So what I did was kind of looked at total enrollment. School age total is 1,397 based on those factors I just talked about. Total students with disabilities, again, is 210. So that makes our current classification rate 15%. Last year it was 12.5%, so there's definitely an increase there. If you look at the New York State Education Department website, which I've linked there, if you do want to look at it, they report on special education data. The reports that you can look at on the state ed website are from the 2021 school year, and they're based on the FCSD snapshot, which the date of that is October 7th, 2020. So their numbers show that classification rate for Chautauqua County at 15%, and the statewide classification rate is 18%, and that graph shows Fredonia Central School District, our classification rates over the last 8 years, and that graph is actually on the state ed website. I added in this year because this year is not reflected on the state ed, graph. So we've increased from the beginning of that chart, which was 2014, our classification rate was 10.8 to the current 15%. What I'd like to turn to next is really what I would say is the driving force in special education, which is education in the least restrictive environment, or what I would abbreviate as LRE. So on the left side, I listed a continuum of services that we offer here at Fredonia Central School District. So these are ranges from supports in general education to more restrictive placements in self-contained classroom where all students have IEPs and require more intense programs of specially designed instruction and supports. And when we also contract some services through BOCES, Buffalo Hearing and Speech. We've also used Children's Educational Services. I neglected to include that there. So sometimes we have to contract out some of our services if we can't meet those needs, just because of special circumstances. When we can't program for students within the continuum that we offer here in our own four walls, we often look to placements outside through BOCES or other specialized schools. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit of time. So least restrictive environment, or LRE, means that our Committee on Special Education must consider the special education needs of each student. We must then design individual education plans, or IEPs, that provide each student with, to the maximum extent appropriate, education with other students who do not have disabilities. And we are also required to consider placements as close to home as possible. So, as the Director of Special Ed, and I chair many of the meetings that we hold, it's my responsibility to ensure that our committee members, including parents, understand the concept and the responsibilities around LRE, and that we revisit that concept at each annual meeting for each student. So New York State's performance plan indicators for special education sets targets for school districts. So the state expects that 60% or more of our special education students are in general education for 80% or more of the school day. And so that's our target, 60%. And according to that 2021 snapshot data that's on the New York State Education website, we actually missed that target. We were at 59, so we're right on the cusp. And I guess that I could contribute some of that to COVID changing how we programmed for some of our special education students to bring them, back to school and reintegrate them and kind of boost their services a little bit and self-contain them a little bit more. So kind of on the flip side of that, New York State also expects that 18% or fewer of our special education students are excluded from general education in less than 40% of the school day. And that target, again, is 18%, and we met that target at 13.3%. And the source is linked there for you if you want to look at that state website at any point. It's listed there. So in terms of least restrictive environment, you can see here that the vast majority of our students, 84%, are placed in the homeschool setting. So that number of students receive services here at Wheelock Elementary, Middle, and High School in our district. We have 11% of our students receiving services in BOCES placements or classrooms. Many of those are special education placements specifically, but I do want to say that some of the BOCES numbers that I included, there are students that are in other programs that BOCES runs that are general education programs, and those include alternative education, the P-TECH program, and a new program that BOCES began this year called WAVE. And I hate to say this, but I do not know what WAVE stands for. Can you remember? It's an acronym. I can't remember for the life of me what it stands for. And I tried to find it on the website today, and I couldn't come up with it. But basically, WAVE was a response that BOCES added to their menu of services for students who were affected by COVID and couldn't successfully reintegrate into a school setting. So it's an online program using Edgenuity. We do have some of our special ed students, in that program. We have a small percentage of students at Randolph Academy, a smaller number of students who are receiving homebound instruction because of some very particular specific needs that they have, and small numbers of students at either the Summit Center New Directions Youth and Family Services, or are parentally placed in other public schools. So just to kind of show you where our kids are. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about next is just kind of getting back to what is the Committee on Special Education, or CSE, and CPSE is another committee. Mrs. Piper runs that, which is the Committee on Preschool Special Education. They're very similar committees. So the CSE consists of some mandatory members, and those members are the parent or the person in parental relationship to a child that's being discussed, at least one regular education teacher of that student, a special education teacher or service provider, school psychologist, the chairperson or the person who has a knowledge of the district resources and is able to understand what those resources and services are in the district, and also a person who can interpret the instructional implications of evaluation results. So sometimes the chairperson can be a school psychologist. Sometimes the person who can interpret the instructional implications of the results or the evaluation results can be the chairperson. So in other words, one person can wear more than one hat. There's also some non-mandatory members, and if they're requested in advance by the parent, we offer the availability of a school physician to attend a meeting. There's an additional parent member that can attend to support the parent of the student being discussed, and any person with special knowledge of the student that the parent would like to invite in or that the district would like to invite in. And at age 14 or older, we also invite our students to participate in meetings. They get their own letter sent home. Many of them do come to meetings, some of them reluctantly, some of them are enthusiastic. Some of our high school kids actually present their own information. They do a slideshow and talk about their IEPs and what their goals are and their needs, and it's really a nice process, and I'm hoping to expand that a little bit. So the CSE really, the function of the CSE is, it's a process. It's a very regulated process. Everyone's voice on that committee is important, and parent concerns have to be elicited and considered in every discussion. So the outcome of the CSE is that we're developing an IEP, an individualized education plan for students with disabilities. And we have to, that document and that process has to result in student access, participation, and progress in general education curriculum. And we have to address the student's disability needs by considering these questions. Did the committee obtain comprehensive individual evaluations of the student in all areas of suspected disability? Does the committee have sufficient information about the student's response to instruction in the gen ed environment? Is all the evaluation information and pre-referral information considered and discussed? Does the CSE have information about the general education curriculum, context, services, and assessments to help support decision-making and make meaningful recommendations? Do we understand the unique nature of the student's disability and consider that information when we make our recommendations? Do members of the CSE or preschool committee understand the committee process that I just talked about and the expectations and their roles, including understanding the information about the student, the evaluations, the curriculum, the state and district-wide assessments that we're expected to bring to committee discussions? And are we listening to the parents' concerns? Are we considering the student's strengths? Are we considering the student's preferences and interests? And are we making that evident in that document that we ultimately generate the IEP? So I know that's a lot, but I just wanted to talk through that. That's what the process is. And it's a great process. I love facilitating that. It's problem solving. And it's really, to me, it's education at its finest. It's really just kind of considering all these different things, very individualized to each student, and coming out with something very meaningful in the end for a student with a disability. You know, and as you know, and I feel like almost kind of silly saying this, I mean, our disabilities are a range. Some are very visible and significant, and some are very mild and, you know, maybe not noticeable, but every one of those students is entitled to and warranted that same level of discussion every time. So then I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Okay, sorry. This next slide really is just, it's a graphic depiction of the number of referrals and resultant new classifications of students in need of special ed over the last 10 years. So as you can see, we have trended upward in referrals to the CSE and classifications that have come out of those referrals, and it kind of peaked in 1920, and it looks like we're on a downward trend, but time will tell where that goes. My sort of, educated guess on why we might be trending downward is that we are not referring too quickly due to COVID and learning loss, and we're spending more time with pre-referral interventions and pre-referral supports. So I think that's a good thing. So the next slide compares numbers of students across the last 10 years that have been declassified, so that's the dark red bar, and I'll explain that process in a minute. The next line is students that are new entrants into special education because of that referral process that we just looked at on the last slide. And then the yellow bar is new students entering special education because they have transferred to Fredonia Central School District with an IEP already, so they've already been identified. So, you can kind of see why the numbers increase, because I feel like we probably onboard more students than we declassify over time. Declassification occurs when every 3 years in special education we are required to reevaluate students. So we go back to baseline and reevaluate students in all the areas that we originally evaluated them in, and then maybe some new areas if they've cropped up. And we revisit, is that student still eligible for special education? Do they still meet the criteria for whatever their disability classification was? Are they demonstrating a need for specially designed instruction? So when we reach those points that we look at that data again and we see that they no longer have needs, we declassify them. Sometimes students are declassified with what is called a declassification support plan. That means that their test accommodations and program modifications continue. Occasionally they get referred to the 504 committee because maybe their disability warrants just something a little more formal than the declassification support plan. So just wanted to give you the idea of kind of what those numbers look like. And then the last couple of things I want to talk about is these are the people that make all of this happen. So our staffing is, here, I'm not going to read the slide to you, but our distribution of teachers is, there for you. We did have, kind of in the budget, 9 positions between WELAC and elementary. 1 was vacant, and actually until tonight. So that position was there, but it wasn't filled, and it will be filled next year. One of our teachers between middle and high school is actually a shared staff. And we onboarded a new speech therapist this year, as well as a new school social worker that started in March. And those new positions were really in direct response to student needs that required some additional support and staffing. And then just the last slide is, this is the blueprint for improved outcomes for students with disabilities. This is a New York State document. I've shared this before, but there are 7 principles. So the goal is improved results for students with disabilities aimed to provide clarity and expectations for administrators, policymakers, which would be you folks, the Board of Education, and practitioners, the people that are in the field doing the work. And the goals are to improve instruction from preschool special education to post-secondary by preparing our students for success through the provision of supported services and specially designed instruction.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Listen, the placements, so 84% are in Fredonia. How does that compare historically?
It's higher. I mean, historically, if I think back over the last couple of years when I put this information together, we've hovered a little closer to 90% of our students in-house and 10% in outside placements. And it's kind of, it's increased. Our outside placements have increased. Student needs have changed. You know, I will say too that we have received a number of students just this year, in fact, that came to us with IEPs that were already in placements outside of the district. They were in BOCES placement, or they were already at Randolph Academy or something like that. So it's really best to keep those students in those placements until we have the evidence that they don't need to be in that placement. So it has changed over time.
Thank you.
So the increase in occurrences, 14% over the past year, and then a trend upward. So I don't know if there's a real objective way to look at this, but that increase, is it due to a higher rate of occurrence, or are we just diagnosing more appropriately? I mean, were we missing people in the past and now we're catching them? Or is there an increase in occurrence?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's an increase in student needs that are more acute and that we're, I think, more acutely aware of. And I also think, it's sort of a reflection of, I think, society. They're much more open about talking about disabilities and mental health and autism and things like that, and we're much more aware of that. And I think that parents bring that information forward. I didn't talk about this, and I didn't really look at this particular statistic, but over the last couple of years, I can tell you that I've received more direct referrals from parents than has been typical. So, in other words, parents refer their children to the committee because they see that their development early on is atypical, and they take them and they have a diagnosis, maybe it's autism or whatever it may be, and they bring that forward and we consider that information. So I think it's a combination of both things.
First of all, thank you. That was so clear. Those graphs were so easy for me to understand. Just saying something. I'm curious, the number of transfers of kids who already have IEPs, do you think families move to our district because we have such good services?
Sometimes, yes. I definitely know that has absolutely occurred in the past where, I've had a parent, and I'm sure you can remember this in your time too, who said, you know what, I came here because I know that you have good services here. I will also say that when I ran a report out of ClearTrack, which is the data management program we use in special education, and I ran a report of transfers, and some of them are kids that have come and gone a couple of times too. So they may have been in Fredonia, they may have gone away somewhere, they may have come back. So it's some returning kids, but it's also some, luck of the draw. They're here, and we're going to provide for them, and some of it are parents that have sought us out. So yes, we'll do it all.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting your comment about the pre-classification treatment, our approach, that maybe we have less getting classified because we're, trying to make up for the learning loss, and I guess if that is something that maybe is evolving, is there opportunity to measure or understand the outcomes of more intense pre-classification intervention?
Yeah. So
is that potentially an evolution of the model? I don't know. I think it's just how do we stay kind of aware of that?
So each building level has a student assistance team, and students who may be struggling academically or social, emotionally, or behaviorally are, discussed at those teams, and please chime in, you guys, if you want to talk about what happens at those meetings, but, and then that's where those pre-referral interventions start, and they get referred, they're seen by a practitioner, and that information is definitely documented, there's progress monitoring that occurs, so I think we could easily take a look at how many students, over time have received pre-referral interventions, how many have gone on to the Committee on Special Education because we weren't able to close the gap, or how many were exited from that successfully because those interventions worked and they didn't need specially designed instruction beyond that.
Right, and I guess it's just interesting with, the kind of post-COVID intervention that maybe we're applying to more students, and, is that different than pre-COVID?
And I don't know, that was just sort of my own thought as I was working through
yeah.
this, is that I think that we're being a little bit cautious to say, okay, we've got this student in this multi-tiered systems of support, we're providing for them, and maybe that gap's not closing as quickly as we want to, but we're recognizing that some of these kiddos had significant learning loss because of life as we knew it, when schools weren't operating in a normal circumstance. And I think we're taking a little more time with those kids. And I think that, to me, that's sort of that's a hypothesis about why
I think it's interesting to test, right? How do we test and track that? So.
Yeah. No, and I think we easily could. So I'll talk about that next year.
Interesting. Thanks.
I gotta interject. I'm interested too. And this is just a hunch, but I feel like we've spent a lot of time on early interventions, RTI, MTSS, and that over time, as we get better at recognizing that hey, we have these different tiers of interventions and we can help kids get up to speed in these various areas, instead of, and I don't want to throw anybody under a bus here, but I think earlier on, years ago, it was a lot more tempting to say, wow, this kid's really struggling. Let's refer them to special ed.
Right.
Instead of, hey, let's try all these interventions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's another piece of this that is critical to look at.
Yeah. I like that it's a hypothesis. And see what
I just have one question. Well, thank you, first of all, because it helps to understand it all. But just to understand it, the other locations like Randolph and Summit, are kids placed there for particular reasons, like each one is designed differently and that's why they go to that particular one, or how does that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a student we might consider for Randolph Academy is generally a student with some behavioral challenges that can't be met in this environment. The Summit Center is a specialized center for children with autism. So yeah, so it's really very specific to student needs.
Thank you.
And I guess I wanted to highlight that CSE process for you because, you see those upward trends. I think it makes, it in our overall percentage of students with disabilities. But I want to really, ensure that there's, clarity on the point that the process is the same. And we, follow that process. And I love that process, and I really love facilitating those discussions because it applies a very even and fair standard to each case that we look at within the uniqueness of that case. So it's a process that exists for very good, reasons, and I think that we are very careful in how we consider information, how we designate students to have disabilities, and how we provide those services. So those discussions aren't always easy, but they're good. It's a great process.
Just a quick one for you. Where do you see, using your experience and opinion, what are some of the big hurdles that we are going to face in the coming years, months, years?
Yeah, that's a big question. But I think one of the things that challenges me personally in special ed is kind of understanding this bigger population of students with mental health disabilities. They have a diagnosis, there's a lot of people with mental health diagnoses, they don't all need special education. So it's kind of hard to balance, you know, okay, so I know that this student has some diagnosed mental health issues, they are considered disabilities. Do they always need special education? It's hard, it's an interesting challenge to face. Those discussions are always interesting. But I think the difficulties is programming for those kids, because it's heartbreaking to know that we can't always meet those needs here. And you know, I can tell you, there's one or two, particular cases where, I've got some students with some really significant social, mental issues and can't find the right placement for them. We've tried this and we've tried this and we've tried, a lot of different things. And I think those are the most challenging cases. I feel like I kind of veered off the path of what your question was.
No, I guess because it's maybe a two-part question. And so is there, given that you see some issues maybe developing in the future, what as a board can we do to support? What can we do to be proactive in things rather than reactive?
Yeah,
and you probably have your hands tied a lot with state regulations. And
sure, but I think, creativity is a great thing. So how can we be creative about supporting those kids that I just talked about? We did put an additional social worker into our workforce this year, which I think has been a wonderful thing. So just kind of making sure that we stabilize that workforce to support those student needs. You kind of look at the other piece of it, the academic piece, and I think it's really what, we talked about a little bit. It's that early intervention piece is so important. If I was in charge of, I don't know, something bigger than our school district, that's where I would put all my resources, is those early intervention pieces for behaviors, for academics, for early learning. I just think if you hit those pieces early, you're just going to see a much better
How is this
success.
versus this page? It's easier to target what they're...
So that would be the proactive part. The reactive part is, let's look at these kids that we have now, understand their needs, and do our very best to meet them. And sometimes it's with the resources that we have, and sometimes we have to be creative with our current resources, and sometimes we have to look at, what else do we need to make it happen. So.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Fred.
Yeah.
So next we have the minutes from the last meeting. If I could have a motion to bring those minutes to the floor. So moved. Mr. Johnson, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paula. Any questions on that? I guess that was from the May 17th that we tabled. Do we need to pull that off the table?
Probably should, yes. If it was tabled, that was
Yeah, it was. Okay, so let's back up here and pull the minutes of the May 17th meeting back off the table. And if I could have a motion on this.
so moved.
Second.
Marshall and Schwartz. And now we can vote on both of those together then, correct? Okay, so now I'm just going to ask Mr. Johnson and Ms. Ford if you're okay with still just checking. Okay, so they're both on the table. Any discussion on that at all? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a bid for trash removal to to Casella at the cost of $33,448.80 per year. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So,
That was Ms. Gallo. And Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on that? Any discussion, Mr. Zoliak?
Just that we appreciate John Ford's reaching out to different vendors. We had got an indication that there would be, we were thinking at least 3 or 4 bids, but it turned out that this was the only bid. But please know that was not due to the lack of taking the initiative on our end, contacting other vendors and encouraging them to bid.
And this was a slight increase from last year.
Yes.
Large increase from the year before, 2 years before. Okay. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. Next, we have a bid for gasoline and diesel fuel for the 22-23 school year. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Powell-Fortnum, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gallo. Mr. Zoliak.
It's higher
Really?
than in the past.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Still not a bad deal when we look at, this is the price for the whole year from what we're expecting it to be. Any questions?
A question I have, do we know, and I know John's not here, just wondering, has this historically been a 12-month contract or award? Have we ever done shorter? Is there something that prohibits us from doing 3 months at a time?
That would be a good question for Mr. Forrest.
Yeah.
I think so. We can follow up and I'll
Yeah.
do that in
The thought there is
the
that
communication.
408, although below what a current gallon is, obviously futures, it's a gamble. I understand that, but being that we're at a historic high, why lock in now? I wouldn't buy a new car right now, so why lock in gas right now? At least for a year. Maybe for 3 months or 6 months. I don't know what the process is. Food for thought for the future.
So is that a request to look at it now, or is that, you're okay now?
No, I'm okay now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If not, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have summer transportation contracts to the Guida Center. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Any questions on that?
Well, John isn't here, but to that point, on the agenda, just the overall thought process about these additional bus routes is probably well over $100,000 a year. And that's a number that deserves a look at as to options. So, I guess I would be interested in hearing some types of options, only because, as we just talked about in the previous vote here, the price of fuel, the one kind of institution that can deal with all schools in a shared service would be BOCES. And, it's not as if the bus isn't driving by other schools to take our individual students. I think it's a scheduling issue, possibly, and that if everybody could get onto the same format and scheduling to kind of reduce some of this cost. It's not only us, but it's all the other school districts that are seeing an uptick in additional busing. So it's rather concerning because the dollar amount is really getting pretty large as an annual cost.
So I do have a little additional information I'll just jump in with. So, you know, these are all related to summer transportation. And yes, we continue to struggle with unique scenarios. Like the number 3 is a very specific transportation need around a very specific student based on their needs. So I did reach out to John O'Connor at BOCES, and he said there's 2 reasons why this hasn't been as big of a conversation as you might think. He said, but they're always open to conversations. Number 1 is need. And he said there hasn't been an outpouring of requests in this area. The second thing, and I would have to get more information, and he explained it to me on the phone briefly, is that the aid on a shared service versus transportation aid is actually lower. So it would still be advantageous because there would be aid back. But when you factor in the gap between transportation aid and shared service aid, sometimes it makes the savings minimal. And when it appeared like it would be a big savings, maybe it's not as big because of that gap in aid. The other thing in meeting with area superintendents said is that a lot of things like for number 3 districts have pursued transporting students with their own vehicles. And that's been helpful if you have a situation with an individual student, maybe 1 or 2 students. And that's how some other districts are responding to some of the unique and sort of not common issues. And we've had a number of those this year, and you're absolutely right. I think at the end, and I would need John for an estimate, the total amount of money on some unique transportation needs this year has been fairly high. So I'll continue to have that conversation with John O'Connor. He mentioned bringing it up at our next superintendent meeting, which might be the start of more of a need than it appears at the time. And I would need to understand, and maybe John Forbes can help us understand the difference in aid and what that exactly looks like.
So to the aid piece, and this, because I've already thought of that, you know, because we've got 72%, maybe it's 74%. The gap there is, but my thinking is that if you have a bus running from point A to point B, passing other school districts, and it's costing you $400 for an individual school district, well, then that $400 will be broken up by 2 other schools, or a sum of 3. This is where I see the savings. And this is where I think that overall, it's not necessarily an aid issue as much as it is bringing other people on board to share the expense. And that's the need piece that you were speaking about. So I understand all that you're saying, but I wasn't hung up on the aid issue as much as just the need that seems to be ticking up.
Yeah, and this is an ongoing conversation. I don't want you to feel like it's been like, well, you know, there's not much of a need, so we won't broaden the conversation or ask the questions. So he's going to pursue it from his end as the Assistant Superintendent for Management Services, and he made clear that, you know, this isn't, so you never know where those conversations go. It's something we didn't foresee happening. Next thing you know, there's a COSER and a service. So.
Brad, I echo Tom's thoughts. It's always troubled me, the high costs. It's just not us. It's every school district. And it's all about efficiency. It just seems like, and we bring up the aid, but, you know, 72%, that's New York State. We're still paying that. We're all paying that. So it's really not the aid. It's about how can you make the thing more efficient? Can we pick up other schools? Can we share it out, like Tom said? But also, what troubles me is it's either school bus or nothing. It's like 12-passenger bus, smaller fleets. You know, why? And it sounds like you're on top of it. You're already looking at going in that direction with investigating fleets or something like that. But just don't understand how we can have 3 kids on a 60-passenger bus if that's happening. It's very fuel inefficient. So, yeah, so I'm glad that you're looking into it. I'd just like to see us more efficient. And also just note, I'm not saying you don't recognize this, but John this year has spent a lot of time on the phone connecting with other districts, trying to connect runs together, trying to be creative. So we do pursue those options within the format that we're currently transporting students. I think what I hear you saying, let's look beyond kind of what we're currently doing and see what the options are. I respect what John's done. He's done a great job, but there's still other things that could be done, especially the size of vehicles. Just maximize the number of kids on a vehicle.
Well, and to that, the part that I sort of wonder is if it's a scheduling issue with the placement wherever these children are going. So, a scheduling has to be done. Everybody has to be on board.
Right, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. John's been doing that. We got to get the others to. We just have. It's not going to be perfect. We just have to keep working.
And keep in mind too, I think we talked about this earlier, there's been some good neighbors who have allowed our students to ride their bus for no charge this year, because it's literally no difference in mileage. It's picking students up on the way. And so, I guess, there's been a lot of collaboration, but again, I think I hear what you're saying, to look broader than this is what we have now. So these are the constraints. And maybe we can break through some of those barriers and do things differently.
Looking at the vehicle size.
You mentioned some districts have their own vehicle that they use for small numbers of students. Is that a realistic possibility for our district?
I think that would be a board consideration. Again, this really comes down to prioritizing if that's something that we think would be helpful or we want to have that option available. I think that would really be up to this group to decide whether that's something we want or need, or if that would be helpful in addressing the situation. Because the one thing that is in play here is some degree of unpredictability. So these things come up quickly. Let's just say we had a vehicle right now. And we had two scenarios come up. We might only be able to take one or the other, and I don't know what the savings might be there. But again, I think it's a viable option to consider. But
If you do that, are there rules as to who can drive?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, an employee, or no, it has to be specifically trained?
Well, it would have to be somebody with who's been trained as a bus driver and has gone through all that. So, like in the district I left prior, again, small rural district, there was probably like 5 or 6 employees who were also bus drivers, so that wasn't their primary role, but they could be available to transport a student if needed.
Would you be willing to do the CDL certification this summer?
Sure. Margie and I.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be fun.
Okay. So we're still on summer transportation contract, item B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have transportation contract with First Student to the main campus for summer school. Can I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Let's go. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. I'm reading the explanation of 2 and the motion of explanation of 3 and the motion of 2. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now I can look at the 446. I couldn't figure out why they weren't the same. Okay. Next, we have the 31-day emergency transportation contract per student to the Hughes Center in Asheville. I have a motion to bring that to the floor.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Ms. Paula Chapman. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have tuition rates for the 22-23 school year. Can we just have a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion? Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Dole. Mr. Ziliaks, we've got a couple different figures here. 1% budget increased, and then an increase of 2.5%.
Yeah, so, again, we talked about this in our agenda meeting, and really the difference in the K-6, if I'm calculating this correctly, at 2.5% is $70, and at the 712 it is $100. So even at 2.5%, I don't think we're asking a devastating amount. And there was some thought in that agenda meeting that that might be a more feasible number for the district. I can support that. Throw it open to the board for thoughts.
I think being that the rate was held at 1%, the increase for district resident, for district taxpayers was something that we were able to do for our monies that we have. And I think that 2.5% increase in tuition rate with the dollar amount that it actually becomes is a fairly reasonable request, and that's what I would think of the 2.5%.
We probably talked about this before, but I was thinking about how, like, we pay pretty high taxes, which is kind of like tuition, right? So, to me, the higher rate seems reasonable. They're probably living somewhere with lower taxes.
I support.
2.5. My thought on this is we've kind of had a policy of increasing the tuition, what our tax increase has been. However, I think that over the past 4 years, we've gone 0% for 2 years, 1% for 2 years. And I think that the tuition students have been getting quite a banger of a deal. And what I don't want to do is, I don't want to get to a point where 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we're way behind on our tuition. And I don't, sorry, but I have an obligation to our district taxpayers. And I just want to make sure that is one thing that doesn't get behind. So I guess, what would you suggest we do as far as a motion? Just modify the motion to 2.5%?
So what I typically do is if the discussion is still happening, which it is, then whatever is decided, I fill in the amounts in those 2 areas. So if you decide 2.5%, then I'll take the numbers from 2.5% and put it in those sections, and you just have to vote yea or nay.
So, but what do we do as far as the motion is concerned?
I mean, you brought it to the table to discuss, and typically you decide a number.
Okay, so now we can
And then you vote.
just put it out there to vote on 2.5%. Okay.
And then if that were to be voted down,
So since I think that there's concurrence here, I will put to a vote an increase in both the K-6 and the 7-12 of an increase of 2.5% for tuition on both of those. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I guess that was easier than I made it out to be. Next, we have the mileage reimbursement rate from 5.85 cents per mile to 62.4 cents. Yeah, we probably ought to cross off the cents on this, because it's $0.624, not cents. So if we could have a motion to bring to the floor the change in reimbursement rate to $0.624 per mile.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall, and a second.
Second.
Fireworks over here.
That's exciting.
Ms. Powell Fortin. Mr. Ziliak's just kind of an explanation. I know that that's the state approved minus 1/10 cent.
Yeah, I think this is a standard figure that's provided to us, and we typically move forward with the number that we receive.
Okay. Any questions?
Just out of curiosity, travel for work all the time. In my career, in what I've done the last 20 years, we've never used an IRS rate. That's more of a guide for deductions for personal use on your vehicles, or I'm sorry, business use on a personal vehicle. We've always, my experience has been always the GSA rate, which is currently at the 58.5 cents. So I know just on June 9th, there was the IRS issue an update to increase your ability to deduct. But I've never experienced that as the reimbursement rate. And obviously, John's not here, so I certainly don't have issue with that, traveling. That's a kind of a break-even rate, pretty much, with the wear and tear on your vehicle. But just out of curiosity, I wonder, I've reached out to a couple different school districts, and they don't use that rate. They use the GSA rate. So government spending agency just kind of dictates they'll list if you use your airplane for business, what you can deduct, or I'm sorry, what you're reimbursed versus what you can deduct. And there is a little bit of discrepancy there. 5 cents a mile.
In my business dealings, it's always been what
You use
the IRS rate.
Interesting. Okay.
It's always been. None of this IRS minus 1/10 cent.
Yeah, and that's also another interesting, why are we deducting 1/10 cent?
Because it's been our policy. I'm not certain if that is written or not.
Mr. Aldrich, I can speak to that. So in the backup that John provided, we said pursuant to the collective bargaining agreements between the district and the respective bargaining units and employees of districts to pay mileage reimbursement at a rate of 1/10. So it is in our CBA.
It's just, okay. Fair enough.
Thank you. All those any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we have the approval of contract with outside agencies, the physical therapy contract with Children's Education Services. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, Mr. Hawk, and a second?
Second.
Ms. Paula Fortin. Mr. Ziliak.
A little bit of good news here. Last year, our needs were such, based on the students who were involved, that we needed PT and OT services. This year, it is just PT. So last year's contract was roughly double than what you see here. So not a staggering amount either way, but a savings is a savings, so.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have memorandum of agreement between Fredonia Central School Districts and Erie 2 BOCES for a Stop School Violence Project grant. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Gallo and is that Ms. Hahn? Any questions on that?
Yeah, this is a nice opportunity through BOCES to work together with other school districts around general threat assessments, but also more specifically to our particular building. And we've allocated some funding to take our crisis team and be engaged in those conversations. So we look forward to that, and I think it ties in nicely to sort of the timely conversations that are happening across the nation, really, about safety and prevention, and how we can make sure we're keeping our buildings as secure as possible.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay. Next, we're at C1, personnel. So we've got...
Actually, sorry, Mr. Aldrich, right at the top of that page, we have Piatowski's retirement. I just want to make sure that's out there so we can recognize for years of service.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a letter of resignation from Stacy Conti, effective June 30th. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? So, Mr. Johnston, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gallo. Any questions on that? We did recognize her for her 22 years of service earlier. Anything additional? I guess we've already discussed it, so I think we've
Covered our bases there.
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now, we have the appointment of Izzy Krenzer. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Let's go.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Ivy is not here, obviously.
Right, so this is an interesting scenario, and Margie can help fill in any gaps that maybe I miss here. So, as you know, Ivy has been a middle school science teacher in the district and actually received tenure a few moments ago. However, there's been a technology position open in the district for quite some time. And after giving it some thought, Ivy reached out to the middle school admin team and had an initial conversation, and then progressed to district office. So she decided that she wanted to officially apply and interviewed and was offered the position. So in a strange way, Ms. Krenzer is going to see re-tenure in the position and then resign the position and then be appointed as a technology position within a half hour of each other. So we're excited. She is really enthusiastic about this new opportunity and has a passion for technology, both professionally and also in some of the things that she's done outside of school, flipping houses and some of that kind of work. So she's looking forward to a new opportunity. Yes, she would then leave one tenure area for another tenure area and begin that process again, which she is a confident young lady and feels like that's not a consideration here. So ultimately, we will need to post for a middle school science teacher shortly. Did I miss any of Ms. Chapman or Dr. Wright?
And the thought that the middle school science teacher is easier to fill than a
technology? It is. There may be some challenge there, but I think it's also supporting, an employee looking to make a move, and us feeling like she's well qualified and it'll be a great fit.
Good. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the appointment of Kenneth Quellis. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Goa, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paul Fortman. Mr. Ziliaks.
Kenneth, again, did a nice job at the building level interviews and also with district office. He brings a really interesting and wide variety of background experiences focused on students with high level behavioral needs and alternative educational settings. He completed his master's degree in special ed and childhood education at Uville College in 2011. He is certified in students with disabilities, grades 1 through 6, and also childhood education, grades 1 through 6. His experience includes working with 9th and 10th graders as a special education teacher at Baker Victory Main School, and worked with at-risk students for the Way to Life program, both located in Lackawanna. Additional experience is as a home tutor with Lakeshore, a grade 8 social studies teacher in Pine Valley, and a social studies teacher 712 in Yorkshire Pioneer High School Alternative Program. Most recently working with multiple age special education students at Erie 2 BOCES at the Lita Center. One of the things we ask the candidates are the things they do in their spare time. And Jessica earlier, as you saw, definitely mentioned her family and all that's going on there. And Kenneth has some of that same situations happening at home, but he does involve coaching travel hockey, as some other people do as well, for the West Seneca Wings, and he lives in Angola with his wife and children. So we're excited to have Kenneth on board. Really has a background that we think could have multiple applications at the district long-term, but right now would really be a nice fit for our special education students. So.
Good. All those in, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We get down to our superintendent's report.
Yes, a couple of quick notes. One is we have a s'more that will go out tomorrow, and in it, one of the things that we always do is thank a number of people. One thing we want to thank all of our fathers and our father figures out there supporting our students in the district, and hopefully there was some celebrations over the weekend regarding their work and dedication and their commitment to young people in our community. And really, I also have an article in here that's a thank you to everybody who has really put in a lot of time and effort to make this last 40 weeks as productive and positive as possible. And I think by working together, we really successfully fulfilled our mission of creating an environment where individuals become their greatest selves. A lot of time, energy, and concern has gone into our collective efforts, and we absolutely appreciate that, not only from our students and families, but our community members, absolutely our faculty and staff, as well as our administrative team, as well as people here as part of our Board of Education. So thank you to everybody. As we move forward, again, we continue to ask people to reach out to our offices anytime with questions, concerns, or ideas. As we are planning for next school year, we're open to your feedback and hope that you would take us up on that offer. Also, although Mr. Aldrich did allude to it prior to this ceremony, I just want to recognize both Lenny Bento and Tom Barisi for being recognized as Wall of Honor recipients for their dedication to the district over a long time. Also, we had spoke last meeting about Quest, and Ms. Troutman and I had a chance to sit down with Stephen Sukab later on in that week. And we absolutely agreed that we look forward to continuing this tradition in its current format, and maybe looking to develop a few things within that, but mainly keeping what we're doing intact as we move forward. A couple requests they had. One is part of Mrs. Greenhouse and I discussions within the FTA negotiations that they wanted the association as well as the district to consider an additional advisor at an increased stipend. So that's been part of the conversation recently. They are also looking for additional funding, especially for the equipment that has been used over several years. I'm working with John Forbes on that. I'm confident that we can reach some type of agreement there that's going to work for everybody involved. We also talked about work at Wheelock, and we continue to work closely with Young and Wright. This technically is still pending, and they guaranteed me I would have information this Friday with a definitive answer on what is the best path to make this work happen as quickly as possible, if any, and I will share that with you as part of the Friday update. A couple other pieces, I did have a bus conversation on here, but also another item that Mr. Hawk brought forward is that Forestville has a Skeet Team, and a few of our students have expressed interest in this. This is a club that fundraises. No money in Forestville is designated from the district or the general fund to this club. They are self-sufficient. And Greg Lauer, thank you to him for reaching out to Forestville, having a conversation about what opportunities could be out there and how might we be able to partner together. And right now it remains unseen in that they are open for some collaboration here. But because of the way that those events run, there are only so many slots available. And if their students occupied all those slots, then there probably wouldn't be an opportunity for us. But if there are some slots available, they're more than willing to having a conversation about it. And I think they mentioned that no one else had reached out to them regarding this at this point. So we kind of are the first one in on a potential opportunity. So I appreciate Mr. Hawk bringing that forward. It's a very, really interesting concept. And I would think there would definitely be some interest amongst our students who enjoy either, just target shooting in general or hunting. So, other than that, I think that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. I guess we don't have anybody from the public left, and everybody on this end is going to get their chance anyway. So, as far as President's report, we do have commencement coming up on the 26th at King Concert Hall in Fredonia, 1:30. And I'm assuming that I'm going to be told what time I have to be there this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us now?
It would be great if we were there by 1 in the green room. We usually say 1:15, but that...
To me, it's 12:30. To me, it's 12:30.
1 o'clock would be great in the green room. We start the ceremony at 1:30. We have to get all lined up, but just make sure that we're all good. 1 o'clock, green room. But you can just walk into, if you haven't been there for this, some of you do have some board members, the board and new administrators. Yeah, the other guys have been there.
No, they're here last year.
Yeah. If you just go in the main doors of King Concert Hall and ask any of the attendants there, they will direct you to the green room. You don't need a ticket, you just need to show up, and we'll all process it together. Lead the kids in, all of the board members and high school and main admin district office admins on the stage along with the board members. And it's a great ceremony. We're looking forward to being back there. It's just a great event. One of my favorites.
And it is the conclusion of our school year, so kind of brings everything together and puts a final product out across the stage. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it'll be
shows all of our successes.
And short, we have a very small class this year, so it's, normally we do 120 to 130. We only-
5'4", 5'6".
I think we're graduating 89, maybe. Assuming everything goes well in the next couple of days.
Okay, and other than that, we have a reorganization. She left. We have a reorganization meeting July 6th, Wednesday, July 6th, 6 o'clock here in the library. So that will be our next board meeting. Mr. Hawk, Mr. Olber, anything else that you would like to?
Well, the wall of honor ceremony was just very heartwarming. I mean, it was just great. The words that you said, not knowing these people were very nice, and it was just nice. I love to hear the stories about a silver dollar. I never got to see that. I'm surprised. Because I was usually, pushing bases with the principals. But no, all joking aside, Tom Parisi I knew a lot better than Mr. Bento, and boy, even after he retired, you see him in his little red car, he was just always smiling, and his arm was out waving, and just a real community man.
It was nice his wife was able to
Communicate.
yeah, I don't know if it was Skype or what it was, but she said hi to me and all the way afterwards, so that was nice. Yes. Ms. Belfort.
A big thank you to Christine Slagle for all the behind-the-scenes work.
Yes.
For our wall of honor ceremony.
Yes, just to echo Mr. Hawk, I know extended meeting, but really great stuff tonight, honoring our retirees, our newly tenured teachers, and Mrs. Troutman, so great presentations. Great meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Congratulations to Paula. Great presentation, really interesting and just good to understand that more. Looking forward to this.
Yes.
Same.
Same time. Okay. Okay.
Also the same, congrats to the retirees and congratulations to those who are receiving tenure.
Same to me. Congrats to you, and thank you for getting our seniors across the finish line. Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, well, first, congratulations, Paula. And I just want to say a shout out to all of our administrators for the tremendous amount of work that's been going on for getting ready for the summer school program. That's everybody, plus the assistant principals. I want to acknowledge that. It's a tremendous amount of work coordinating all of that, and with John Forbes with transportation, Kristen working with, this year we're having support from the cafeteria because we do supply the breakfast and lunches for the students, and that ends up being its own giant task, so kudos for that. And in the midst of all of that, they're still wrapping up the school year and having interviews and doing reference checks and trying to find the best qualified candidates. So that's all happening. So I just want to say, a shout out to everybody here because that's a lot to be, trying to, also be visible in buildings and supporting students and communicating with parents. So thank you for all the work you guys do each and every day. It's huge. I can't thank the math committee enough. Their attention to this process and really wanting to make the best decision with no stone unturned, and just to have my heart a little beating fast because it's getting close here, but we're coming to a decision I think everybody can feel really, really good with because the process was so true. And thank you to Paula for helping with facilitating a meeting specifically with the middle school math team from some concerns that were separate from the types of concerns you have at the elementary level. So I really feel like it's been a process where people have had a chance to have voice, and we're excited to be able to, conclude that and share that with all of you. Also very excited about the summer PD offerings that we rolled out on Friday, and again, a lot of that comes from the work that you've seen with the presentations, whether it's the data from Wheelock or the elementary school, the iReady, the extended school year. All of that comes together and culminates to help us understand those data things, what we need for our to hone their own craft or learn the latest things, apply the latest research. You know, when you graduate from college, it's not a static thing, education. We all have to continue to learn and grow ourselves in order to know what is the latest research, what are the newest programs, how can you, do different data. And as some of these tools like iReady improve and add to theirs, our teachers need that time to learn those and practice them. So we're excited to be able to support the professional learning of our professionals in order to best meet our students as we go into the 2020-2023 school year.
Thank you. Anything going on in the high school this week?
Still nothing.
Still nothing?
First, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to get those two gentlemen up on the wall today. That was outstanding. Tom Barisi was my elementary principal. I also did not get to see the silver dollar. I never knew that existed. And Lenny Bento, he was my cooperating teacher when I student taught here. And he also taught me trig as a junior. So and then I became a colleague and just loved the man. So it's nice to see both of them up there. Congratulations to Paula. Well done. Kristen, very nice job with your presentation tonight. Margie, I want to give you a shout out because in all the years that I've been here, I've never seen a summer professional development offering where it's like, hey, there's stuff to do and you can pick from it, and it's almost like having a course offering bulletin at college where you can pick professional development, whereas typically it's been, here's the thing we're doing, if it applies, great, and if it doesn't, it sucks to be you. So I just appreciate that. That's something new and something I think sorely needed. So thanks. I want to thank Heather Davis, one of our parents. She's providing, I feel like it's almost all by herself, a teacher appreciation breakfast tomorrow. I think there are a couple people helping her out. She's been twisting arms. She was nervous at first. She's like, I don't know, if I have to cook everything myself, I will. But so has she been out recruiting? So thank you to all of the families that are helping with that, which is awesome. It's a great opportunity
You're not on Facebook.
to recognize our teachers. She's coming in. I've got a letter in the building at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning to set up and have breakfast for our teachers, which is awesome. We have 2 Regents exams left, Algebra 2 tomorrow, and then Physics on Thursday. Thursday we're having a staff cookout for all of our high school staff in the courtyard. It's become an annual event for us, which is also something we've come to enjoy. We've got cap and gown pickups going on, the senior pep out parade on Friday. Lineup is at 9:15 at the at the tennis courts. And the parade kicks off at 9:30. And board members, if you're planning to attend, we have a spot for you right outside the main entrance here on the sidewalk. And so as the cars drive by, you can wait there. What else we got going on here? Oh, we had, not to make this meeting longer, but we participated with the Checkpoint A and Checkpoint B exams this year. The Oneida, Herkimer, BOCES decided to print all of the exams for the state this year. Before, they'd send them to us electronically, we'd print our own. They didn't come in. They overnighted them to us. We got them, and this morning there were no French exams in there for our French kids. So we frantically called around. Nobody else was giving these, because there are options. You can give your own, you can do other stuff. So no one nearby was giving them. We all called and left messages at the BOCES feverishly, and eventually they got back to us and they emailed us a PDF of it, and we were able to print it for our French kids. So it turned out okay, but that was a brisk start to my morning. So it's like, well, what are we going to do? The kids are going to be here in an hour. We don't have a test. It was a challenge, but it worked out. Driver's ed starting Monday, next week, and we don't have our car yet. We delivered everything to Basil. They got a little behind schedule, but they're getting the car ready for us this week, and should be ready to go. And I think that's all I have for now. But thank you. Oh, it was nice to see people. We had a couple board members join us for the Spectator Awards dinner at Shorewood this past week. So it was a nice meal.
So it was.
So thank you for coming.
Had good company. Ms. Trotman.
I'm sure.
I want to say congratulations to Ray Dye. He's one of our 8th graders for the U.S. Geography Championship. He got first place on the exam-based. He got first overall in 8th grade, first in the written exam portion. He tied for the first place in multiple choice. He got a trophy, a medal, 2 plaques. He did a lot of good things. He was a finalist in the National History Bee. He's a great kid, just an overall great kid. So it's great to see him excel at this, and he has such a passion. It'll be great to see what he does as he moves forward. I was so lucky today. I got to walk down to Domus Fair and had breakfast with Sarah Graham's students. There was 7 of them. It was such a joy to walk with them, talk with them. Many of them have never been to a restaurant before. So it was a huge learning experience of how to order. Some of them struggled reading the menu, so we helped them with that. But they did a great job. That's nothing bad keeping. So just a really great time with that. Our 6th graders go to Russell Joy Park tomorrow, so they're very excited about that. They'll do a lot of outdoor activities. Our 5th graders will be participating in an activity day on campus, and our 7th and 8th graders, well, they're going to be finishing their social studies exam, so they're going to be testing. We will be finishing the week with our yearly talent show. We're so excited to see that. Mrs. Greeno is our advisor, and they have been practicing every single day. So it's a great way to end the school year.
Great. Thanks. Mr. Drollinger.
Tomorrow's our last full day of school, and then we have half days on Thursday and Friday. So tomorrow is our field day, so all of the grades are putting together activities, and they'll be outside for most of the day. The weather looks good. They've requested lots of water because it's going to be hot. We moved the bounce house to the inside just as a precaution to keep kids safe and healthy. So that's a big day tomorrow. And this past Monday, we also had the bike safety night. We didn't have a big turnout, but it was still a good event for those that showed up. And the kids got to ride their bikes, go on a little course that our school safety officer, Tim Kackelmeyer, designed. So we thank him. And I also want to thank Tim for his increased presence on campus. He's been greeting the kids at the door in the mornings and things like that, which is always nice to have him around. And lastly, we've also had a bunch of open houses this week. We've had all of our 2nd grade classrooms were open to the families, and they came in, they did their insect unit and things like that, which is a big hit. And we do have 2 classes out of the building tomorrow. One is going to Lake Erie State Park, and the other is going to another state park that slips your mind right now. So it's a busy time of the year as well. But yeah, thanks again for all your support, and we congratulate Jamie again for her tenure, and congratulations, Paula. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Farrell.
I'm not sure that I have anything new to say about but it was a nice night. A lot of good things happened tonight. Congratulations, Paula. We're just really, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's the end of the school year. I just feel like there's still so much that I need to do, like getting ready for summer school and wrapping up just a lot of end of the year things, grant writing and interviews, and just kind of some big stuff that I'm nervous because time is going back too fast. But we'll get it done.
So we have graduate. Are you coming to graduation Sunday?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, okay. I didn't, I know you've got a daughter.
Oh, she's not graduating this year.
She isn't? I thought she was.
No, next year.
I'm
I'll
sorry.
be there then.
I thought she was graduating. Okay. That's why I was teasing you. I'm sorry.
That's okay, but of course I will be there.
Ms. Piper.
And congratulations, Paula, and Kristen did a great job with the CSE. Near and dear to my heart, so she did a great job. I want to piggyback on what Mark said about the bike safety night. We didn't have a great showing, but Safety Village came. They donated 13 helmets for the students that we see that might need a helmet. So Tim has those in his possession, so he can hand out to kids. And that was nice of them to bring that. They did a nice job presenting. We had field day today at Wheelock, and it was a wonderful day. We had 7 stations, including our outdoor classroom. We had bubbles, we had snow cones. The kids loved having snow cones at 9:30 in the morning. We had 30 parent volunteers, which was wonderful to have parents again in our building and just have a busy place. We ended the day with a was like Woodstock. We were on the football field having a concert by Glenn Colton, and the kids just loved it. It was warm, but they didn't care. They limboed. We had our 2 retirees, Mrs. Grisal and Mr. Antonio, holding our limbo stick, and the kids all limboed. It was just a great day. I think I just hit 23,000 steps, so it was like... We also have Camp Invention coming up at Wheelock, which is the week of July 18th. It's a STEM camp that we offer to all students kindergarten through grade 6. Stephanie Booth's running that for us this year as part of her administrative internship. So we're excited to have the kids in the building do the STEM camp. Just the CPSE services that will be happening at Wheelock all summer. We have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy happening at the district, as well as Buffalo Hearing and Speech, and those seats are fully in session all summer at Wheelock. So it stays busy.
Good, good. Thank you. Ms. Slagle?
Nothing for me?
Nothing to add?
No.
Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
No?
If you did, so did I.
Okay. Okay. With that, we'll be moving into executive session. If I could have a motion to move in.
So moved.
And a second. Oh, Fortnum. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in executive session at 8:28.
You're my,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teachers, principals,